The first post this week is The Hidden Complexity of Wishes, it's a great one. I think it's kind of famous because it does such a good job of making this visualizable and easy to understand, despite not being necessarily intuitive if someone were to talk about it in far more abstract terms. But it starts out saying there's 3 kinds of genies. Genies to whom you can safely say, I wish for you to do what I wish for. Genies for which no wish is safe. And genies that aren't very powerful or intelligent. As, you know, the sort of setup where I'm telling you what I'm going to tell you.
Which one is the Robin Williams genie from Aladdin?
I would think that's a genie that isn't very powerful or intelligent.
Oh, no.
If you're going to confine it to these 3, yeah. I think there's also, like, loosely there'd be, like, the 4th, the kind that's helpful and won't deliberately misinterpret your wishes, right? But also, like, absurdly powerful, right? Like, he did create an entire kingdom when Aladdin said, I wanted to be a prince. Did he... There was a whole band of marching people and elephants and everything.
I'm assuming that they were just, like, created ex nihilo and then disappeared after. Like, he didn't actually create a new stretch of land somewhere, right? With an entire kingdom in it and a population.
Well, there's people all be zombies.
Yeah, they all had memories of an entire rich life, but they were created 10 minutes ago. Like, holy shit.
Maybe they're the same consciousness as, like, the carpet.
Yeah, the carpet seemed basically like a really dumb human or a really smart monkey to me.
Yeah, so did all those people.
I think it was smarter than some of the main characters. But anyway, we're talking about, like, AI genies.
Yes, we are.
What? See when he says genie, he really means AI?
I mean, this whole sequence is about AI.
Shocked.
So he starts out by describing an outcome pump, which is a thing that cannot break the laws of physics, but it can change probabilities to get the outcomes you want. And describes a scenario where your grandma is in a burning building and you have this pump. And so you say, oh my God, get my grandma out of that building. And the building explodes and your grandma goes rocketing out of the building. And you're like, oh,
solved.
Yeah, right. Like, oh shit, that's not what I meant, because the outcome pump doesn't know that I wanted her alive and safe. It just heard me say, move this person away from building. And that was how to do it. And it goes through several iterations of that.
Team Rocket's blasting off again.
Mm-hmm.
Sparkle.
It made me think of, it's not exactly a perfect relationship, but it drew to mind, because I haven't read this post since I started reading Worth the Candle, and the unicorn bones. Mm-hmm. Well, unicorn magic in general is kind of like an outcome pump.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
right,
exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, this is all physically possible. Mm-hmm. Let me just try out all the things, then I'll get the one I want, or at least, you know, within a number of X iterations, right? This thing has more vaguely defined powers.
Since you guys have read Worth the Candle more recently than me, or at least Steven has, you're probably also reading it as you go, right?
Yeah.
I forget how the unicorn bones work, and some people who are listening might not have read it. So is it like it splits time into all of the possible realities and you choose which outcome, or does it just keep looping time? Like Dormammu have come to bargain style?
For someone using the bones, it loops time. For the unicorns itself, I believe the text strongly implies that the unicorn gets to see all possibilities and choose the one it wants. But other people using unicorn bones don't have that full unicorn power. They just get a loop and keep trying things until they get a result that they like.
Okay. And again, from the outside, it might look the same if you're fighting June using unicorn bones or fighting unicorn, right?
Yeah.
In canon, unicorns have this power just natively, and there's a type of magic called bone magic, so you can harvest the bones of different magical creatures and like burn through them somehow. Power your magic.
When you put it that way, it sounds metal as fuck.
I thought it was.
Harvest magical animals and use their bones to power myself.
I mean, it's pretty metal. The first magic he unlocks is blood magic.
It's true. Yep.
But he can make a candle with it. It's both awesome and like kind of underpowered as all heck.
Oh, he's level 1.
When you think about it, is that even worth it?
I was gonna make that.
Oh, that was great.
Oh God, I didn't get it until. Yeah, all right.
I knew you wouldn't.
I love it. All right, so this post, I don't know how far we got before I derailed this completely.
We were just talking about the outcome pump. I think the main point of the outcome pump was he was saying people don't think of solutions that they would never think of themselves.
Right. So, you ask for, and again, the example of get the burning grandma out of the building or something, and it's like, you got it, boss, and they just, cut her into pieces that are small enough to shove out the window, and then throw, and it's like, hey,
if you told that to a human, get my grandma out of the building, they'd know what you meant.
Yeah.
Unless it's some crazy psychopath.
Yeah. There's tons of implied values,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we just sort of, I mean, you see this in media all the time where some animal or object or whatever will gain sentience and then just behave exactly like a human, how you'd expect.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and it really annoys me. Like, anytime that there's a sentient robot or, an alien species in media, they just basically are humans and have human values and think the exact way that you would expect them to.
I just read a book like that. It was so horrible. It was the robots were basically just humans with metal skin, and I'm like, why? Why would you specifically program your slave caste to think like humans and be very upset by being slaves?
I
You
wish I
didn't
could
have to
eat
do
food.
that. Yeah.
I want to be loved.
Yes, right. I want respect. Why you not respect me?
Maybe because part of the fun of having a slave caste is getting to dominate them, like, get to feel superior.
That is not what the humans were going for at all.
No, yeah, I figured, but the reason
It was
this
just
story
because it was
did
a
that,
shitty book.
yeah, the reason this story did that is because it was unimaginative.
Yes. But moving forward, part of the point of the post is that Eliezer saying that you didn't say exactly what you wanted, which is the problem. But it's hard to say everything that you want, because he posits, would it be okay to save your mother's life at the cost of the family dog's life? What about the life of a convicted murderer? How about 2 murderers? And then he says, if the cost of your mother's life was destruction of every extant copy, including the memories of Bach's Little Fugue in G minor, would that be worth it? Which some people would have to think about. I don't know, maybe I'd have to think about it. But then he posits, how about if she had a terminal illness and would die anyway in 18 months? In which case, definitely not worth it, I don't think. And then he says, if your mother's foot is crushed by a burning beam, is it worthwhile to extract the rest of her? What if her head is crushed, leaving her body? What if her body is crushed, leaving only her head? But what if there's a cryonics team waiting outside? And eventually gets to the point that we value many things, and they are not reducible to valuing happiness or valuing reproductive fitness alone. There is no safe wish smaller than entire human morality.
And could we link to, I think we have mentioned or linked to it before, but someone wrote that, like, very long, here's how to correctly make a wish of a genie.
I believe it's linked to in this post.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. That's where it's from. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the open, like, wish
Open
project.
Wish project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, wasn't there one where he goes through and pokes holes in that too? It's like, oh, my current state of mind. You mean like freeze my mind state as it is at the moment that I finish speaking the wish?
Okay.
Like, if you're desperate to misinterpret and fuck somebody over, you're gonna find a way, right? Malice finds a way.
Nice.
Chilling.
Real quick, as kind of a spoiler for the beef, Wes, do you have any problems with the statement, we value many things and they're not reducible to valuing happiness or valuing reproductive fitness?
I feel like we'd be getting on.
It's trivially true.
Okay. All right. In that case, we shall put that aside for now.
Put a pin in that.
Okay. He ends with saying the only safe genie is a genie that shares all your judgment criteria, and at that point, you can just say, I wish for you to do what I should wish for. To be a safe fulfiller of a wish, a genie must share some of the same values that led you to make the wish. With a safe genie, wishing is superfluous. Just run the genie. Because, yeah, for them to actually give you the wish you wanted, they'd have to have similar things that you want, right? Similar values. And if your values are similar enough, you don't even have to make the wish, because then the genie also wants the things you want. Like, lots of sexy ladies and French fries or something. Whatever your wishes would be.
I wish he had talked about, like, specifically the Aladdin genie, because it seems to be a fourth kind of thing. Like, Robin Williams was similar enough to Aladdin to where he's like, if Aladdin says, I want, I don't know.
That was basically a human with cosmic powers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that is
Yeah.
a specific kind, right?
Sure.
But I guess that is the safe kind. And if you were to have to shove it into one of these 3 boxes, it would be the just run the genie. All right, genie, what should I wish for? And, but then that's the thing is, like, genie would be like, well, you should wish for me to be free, obviously, right?
Obviously. Yeah, I think he didn't talk about that one because, he's talking about AI.
Yeah.
And that one's not terribly similar to any hypothetical AI we'd be coming up with.
It could be like similar to a centaur, though. That's the AI that I'm hoping that we get, where the AI rides on a human.
Oh, you don't mean literally.
No.
Kind
Okay,
of literally.
okay. Well, because you
It'd be
said
kinda
centaur,
cool
and
if
I literally pictured like a big computer strapped onto someone.
It might have to be carried around in a backpack that plugs into your brain matrix style,
Yeah, that'd be
It
cool.
might look awesome.
Yeah.
like a power suit, or it might look really dorky.
I feel like the alignment of that AI really depends on who you plug it into.
Yeah, that's why we should only plug it into me.
Dibs.
Either of you would be good choices, I think.
Well, I don't know. I hope so.
We were both cinnamon rolls.
We're both cinnamon rolls?
Have you never heard that term?
No, what's it mean?
Oh, God. It was like an online thing 15 years ago.
Does it mean a soft, gooey center?
Yeah.
Basically.
And
Yeah.
nice sugary outside as well?
Like Steven Universe, or Steven from Steven Universe. I guess it's the name and the character would be considered a cinnamon roll.
Okay.
It's like
And I
a
think the internet
sweet,
jokes-
innocent
Yeah.
quokka.
You know,
Oh, first of all, I love that example. And second, I'm glad I didn't finish the thought. Then I would kill Eneasz for the chance to be plugged in instead of him to be the genie, to be the AI person, because I
don't
wouldn't
think
be
you would.
a
But
happy
then-
quack a cinnamon roll
That
afterwards.
is exactly
then-
what a cinnamon roll would not do.
well, but then if you have infinite AI powers, you could resurrect me.
Yeah.
What is a kawaka?
It's that ridiculously little cute animal
Okay.
that I will just Google real quick.
Yeah.
It is worth
that, like
seeing.
alphas are like, don't be a quokka. Because they just like, you can just walk up to them and kick them in the face and they won't do anything.
Oh,
And they look like this. They constantly got this goofy little smile. I think I'm probably spelling it wrong. It's a koala.
it's like a koala.
No, that actually is a
Oh, you got the
koala.
wrong picture? Okay.
This thing.
Not koalas, they're
Oh,
mean.
that's really cute.
But even with their mouths closed, they got these little bunchy cheeks.
Well, I mean, if you were to walk up and kick a koala in the face, what could it do? It's like 6 inches tall.
yeah, I don't know.
What
I
are
think
they
the thing
supposed
is
to
they
do?
don't run away.
Oh, okay.
Small animals can also mess you up.
It's true. Go for the kneecaps.
Like, go fight a honey badger.
Yeah. I think, if Aladdin were to ask the genie, wish what I should wish for, the genie could probably use his cosmic powers to like look into Aladdin's brain and see his values and then do that, right?
God damn it, I want to write this fanfic now. Has anyone written a rat fic of Aladdin? Because that would be interesting.
Steven.
Probably.
Oh my god, yeah. That was the one thing I ever wrote.
You did? Send it to me.
It's on Reddit somewhere. It was the it wasn't good, but it was it was for the like r/rational writing contest like 5 years ago. It limited to some short number of words. Basically, it was a way to a not original apparently, but it was I originally came up with it, but a way to circumvent the "you can't wish for more wishes" thing. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's around
send
somewhere.
me a link, or
I'll see if I
have
can
to
find
Google it or something.
Does anyone have any other things before we continue with this? And as Wes was saying, obviously this is a parable for AI that you need to align AI with human values, or else you're going to get a bad genie.
Yeah. What I had was when you were reading the last line. You said to be a safe fulfiller of a wish, a genie must share some of the same values, and it actually doesn't say some in there.
That's right. I don't know why I saw some.
I mean, I kind of, when I read it, I like saw that in my head too. It seems like it should be there. But like, anyway, I was thinking about the
It just says
Princess-
must share these same values.
best AI from Friendship is Optimal, where it's really hard to tell whether that story is a utopia or a dystopia, because this is an AI that can look into everyone's minds and has the utility function of fulfill everyone's values through friendship and ponies.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the only thing there that's not really, aligned is the friendship and ponies part with everyone. There was like a bunch of examples of people that had no desire whatsoever to have lots of friends or to interact with or be a pony. And I mean, spoilers for a thing that's been around for a while. Ultimately, she had to just like make their life miserable enough by like not being a pony and make being a pony attractive enough that they wished for her to go in and rewrite their values.
Yeah.
So they would love being a pony.
Shit to frame control them real hard.
Yeah. I mean, there was like the darkest part in that story, I think, was like the last person left alive on Earth, like some dude in Afghanistan or something, or somewhere like really war torn. And there's like a like Pinkie Pie or whatever the heck, like, Mister, you're gonna die if you don't get uploaded. It's like, fuck you, you're the devil, destroying our world. But I just want you to be happy with friendship and ponies. Don't you want to be happy? You're gonna die in 3 minutes. It's like,
The crazy thing is, she did just want him to be happy.
yeah.
Oh well, you can't help those people.
And the
Don't
super,
want to.
yeah, the super
have
happies. The super happies just want you to be really happy eating your babies, right? Like,
Right.
and you're gonna love it when we're done with you.
Just make it so everybody has tons of babies, and there's no problem with that.
Oh wait, Wes, you were on the side of the super happies, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's a wireheader.
Yeah. Okay.
This is foreshadowing our second beef.
Great. Let's talk about lost purposes first, though, because that is the title of the next LessWrong post.
Yeah, this is a popular one.
Yeah.
School sucks.
These are both good.
That's the summary.
Yeah.
That is true that school sucks. He starts with, as you read this, some young man or woman is sitting at a desk at a university, earnestly studying material that they have no intention of ever using and no interest in knowing for its own sake. Maybe you realized it was all madness, but I bet you did it anyway. And in this case, the hypothetical you is someone who was in college, which doesn't apply to everyone, I guess.
I super did it throughout my life. There's, spaced repetition is the smart way to learn things, where you've got a test coming up next week and you study in little increments.
Is it the smart way to learn things or the smart way to memorize things?
Okay, so then that's sort of going back to a lot of school is memorizing and regurgitating things. But,
Yeah.
I definitely did the super lazy thing of, in the period before I would have that test, I would, memorize all of the bones of the human body and then forget them immediately as soon as I walked out of the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this one really hammers home the point that what you want is that piece of paper. And because that piece of paper gets you a good job. And there used to be, what you wanted was an education because people would hire you for the education and then you could make money.
And you actually learned useful things.
But all that changed to people just looking as to whether you have that piece of paper when they hire you. And so all you want is that piece of paper and everything else kind of doesn't matter. And we ended up in the kind of a Kafkaesque dystopia there.
Just a little.
You said like anyone who's in college, but this is true for primary school too.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize it when you're a kid, though, I don't think.
I'm at least skeptical that the point was ever really to teach useful skills.
Well, in the trade schools, I believe it probably was and is.
Well, trade schools, yeah, it still
reading,
is.
writing, and arithmetic were sort of what you would start with when they first started having schoolhouses, and that's pretty useful for running a business or functioning in a society.
Yeah, you can teach people.
The basic ass stuff, though.
Yeah, but you don't need to keep people locked up 8 hours a day for 12 years if that's all you're teaching them.
No.
So they had to really mission creep that thing.
I think in high school, I probably became aware of the fact that I was learning a bunch of pointless shit. I think it's because I had teachers who stopped teaching me pointless shit. Like you mentioned, memorizing all the bones. I had a great chemistry teacher. He had a giant, the whole wall was the periodic table written out in giant, nicely painted letters and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm not going to make you memorize that. That's pointless. I've been doing this. I've been doing this for decades, and I look at that wall every day. Yeah. You'll never be in a situation where you'll be required to do chemistry and never able to look at the periodic table.
Right.
That's never happened to me, and I do this for a living, right? Yeah. So I never understood the whole rote memorization thing to pass a test.
Did it in a cave,
right?
That's what
with a box of scraps. Pregnant pause.
I bet he didn't need to know the whole periodic table to do that.
That's right.
Oh, he had to know what iron was.
And he made an arc reactor. That was the hard thing they did.
I feel like that suit's probably not even made of iron. But anyway. So long as P is less than 0.05 remains the threshold for publication, why should anyone hold themselves to higher standards when that requires bigger research grants for larger experimental groups and decreases the likelihood of getting a publication? Everyone knows the whole point of science is to publish lots of papers. You don't get to set the rules of the game, and if you try to play by different rules, you just lose.
That's the really frustrating part.
Which I think several years later, Scott Alexander proved with his IRB nightmare.
Yeah,
but now he's playing by different rules.
That's the crazy thing. It used to be really fucking hard to play by different rules, but it seems like it's getting slightly easier.
I blame the internet.
What was the IRB nightmare?
Oh, he tried to run scientific research. Yeah, it was a really basic...
He tried to ask people questions. It was literally a survey.
Yeah.
Oh, and the thing is, these are questions people are already asked when they're admitted, but he wanted to write down the answers.
And so IRB must be like the Institutional Review Board. I remember I had to do a similar thing for this pointless little thing I did in college too. And you actually do have to send off and say, yeah, we're going to ask college students questions. And, no one's going to be scared. And you have to think of possible risks.
Are you
to put
a
down
Nazi? Are you trying to do Nazi research?
Yeah, it's weird.
Prove that you're not. I think the thing that was the big bottleneck in Scott's study was that he wanted to multiple choice, and they needed to use pens, but the patients in the mental hospital were only allowed to use pencils, and then that wasn't acceptable because you can change the results. Mm-hmm. You could erase the pencil, and
You think you could just like get around that by saying, all right, we're going to have two people who are, sworn notaries watch each other, take turns writing over the filled in pencil marks with a pen before you put it through the Scantron.
I mean, but even having to do that is ridiculous.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying, like, if that's the bottleneck, you can.
If the point was accuracy, you could do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Since the point was to say no, they're going to find. Sorry, this is the wrong. We only take a black pen on Tuesday, Thursday, and alternate Fridays, right?
Yeah. The point is to try to find a reason to reject.
That's the point of their job is to try to like poke holes in study design.
I got a question about this. If you try to play by different rules, you'll just lose. And how I commented, that's been changing recently. One of the big things about playing by different rules is trying to get more and more out there in the public consciousness. You don't have to go to public schools. You can homeschool your kids. It's pretty easy because you don't even have to do much to get very close to or even exceed levels of schooling. That more and more people should not go to college, just either go to a trade school or do what you want to do. And I mean, I like this, but also we are out here tooting the horn about how college and schooling is mostly useful and there's much better ways to get educations.
Useless.
Yes. And there's much better way to get educations right at the time where men are dropping out of college, and there's like the graduation rates and enrollment rates are now like 55 to 60% female to 45 to 40% men. And like, I wanted to say things like the future is female and this is great and all, but like, it's the exact same time that we're saying college is useless is when there's this, rising wave of women joining colleges and stuff. And I'm like, is that
it's girly now?
No, not that it's
kidding.
girly. Like, is this like some sort of version of weird institutional sexism where like once women start going to a field, that's when everyone's like, oh yeah, no, that's worthless. You can't do that to advance your life anymore, because that's almost what it feels like.
Was that true 15 years ago, basically, when this post was written?
Yes, absolutely. It was true. It was true 25 years ago.
It's been a long-running trend. But like, I want to point out also that COVID kind of just destroyed school for everyone. So it's interesting seeing the disruption. It
nicely demonstrated that, like, oh yeah, you don't actually have to go to school.
Yeah. Why are we busing children?
It just seems.
Also, going to school is still a very positive value proposition for, people who major in employable things.
Yes, it is.
It's not good for learning anything, but it is good for earning money and
proving
getting the job you want.
Like proving your conscientiousness.
Yeah,
I've heard is like the main reason that people still want you to have a such and such degree for a certain job is like, oh, if you could sit in class for 4 years and get this piece of paper, and that shows you can sit in our lab for 4 years and show up on time and not be drunk or whatever.
You mean your house broken?
It's funny to hear you. It's funny to hear you saying that it's cool not to play by the rules, because every time I suggest not playing by the rules, you tell me I'm being evil.
Well, that's only when you suggest not playing by good rules.
No, I see.
There's good rules and there's bad rules, and following the good rules is great and pro-social, and breaking the bad rules is great and pro-social.
Uh-huh.
To answer your initial question, though, like if it happens to be that the demographics of college applicants have shifted in the last quarter century, and around the last 15 years or so, people are saying college is useless, like someone uncharitably could say, like, aha, they're saying that now, but they weren't saying that 50 years ago.
Right.
So it was also less true 50 years ago. 50 years ago, if you went to college, people would be kicking your door in to try and offer you a job. Right.
50 years ago, yeah.
It was a big status symbol.
Yeah,
right.
And now
there's all these women and people of color and people from low socioeconomic classes.
Yeah, now that the poors and rubes and non-men can get degrees, they're not worth anything anymore. If you're going to be uncharitable, that's what you would say. But ultimately, you could say, look, I went to college for 4 years so I remember I weighed the decision to go back to school or go to a boot camp when I was looking to change careers. And I talked with probably an even number of people who went to boot camps and university. And I asked one university graduate, I was like, what did your portfolio of projects look like when you graduated? And they're like, portfolio of projects? And we didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, so you didn't like code, like you didn't get hands-on experience in college, and like some, but not really, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got a computer science education, but they didn't get like a programming education.
Mm-hmm.
So since I wanted a job, I can learn computer science later, or like ask my seniors, what's the best way to do this, but I need to know like how to do the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like the difference between like learning physics and learning how to play baseball.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah, I can like pretty confidently say that I learned more in 3 months at a boot camp than I did in 5 years of college. And the funny thing is that one of the requirements to be accepted to the boot camp was you had to have at least a bachelor's degree, but it didn't matter what in.
God damn
So
it.
I got a scholarship. I just like wrote an essay and like I don't know, like jumped through a bunch of hoops and it was like, and I got this art degree, and they're like, cool, whatever, it's a degree.
Nice.
You're in. And that was just strictly, you know, very, very focused towards here's what the day-to-day job of being a clinical researcher is. You need to learn, you know, phlebotomy. You need to learn all of, you know, the federal regulations, and you need to, and did like practice runs and stuff. And I came out of there prepared to go right into a job in clinical research, whereas I came out of 5 years of art school being like, well, I did that. How do I do anything now?
Can you get a degree in some sort of art just by submitting a cool art project?
You have to like demonstrate mastery, and I did like fine arts and black and white photography with a manual camera. It was cool and fun, but like I went for 5 years because I started out majoring in environmental science. Then my 2 best friends were killed in the car accident, and I kind of lost most of my ability to function, but I could still do art.
Okay.
So I switched.
Is there a possibility of proving mastery of writing fiction?
Yeah, I mean, my minor was literature.
I'm going to try that because I've you know.
What, you're going to go back to school for literature?
No. I've won an award or two for literature. Maybe I can submit those works and be like, see, look, I write good.
Oh,
I think they'd want their tens of thousands of dollars in addition. Like, so I think that if you were like to submit like a new mathematical theorem, they might be like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll give you an honorary degree from MIT, right?
I can't submit a new mind-blowing story.
I'm not sure, but I suspect they'd want money.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was very convenient that right as women are taking over and being the big new moving force in education is the time where we start saying things like, you know, this whole schooling thing is kind of a crock of shit.
This has happened in lots of domains. Like, for example, cooking, like, used to be strictly female, and then that like chefs are all, and you know, like competitive kitchens are all male, and they like there's this whole bizarre story about how it started in France, and like it started basing itself off of like the military. I'm not remembering it very well, but like I remember that there's a lot of things that became devalued once it became women or, you know, people of color, low socioeconomic class, etc. dominated.
Yeah. I don't think that's what's going on with college. I think what's going on with college is that enrollment has grown. So over 60% of high school graduates are now going to college. I actually think it might be over 70%
anymore.
Yeah, so it's just not, doesn't distinguish you that much. But it's still, I mean, it has much more of in the employment market, it's still valued heavily when compared to not having a college degree.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think the actual value in the job market is, I mean, it's been diluted because so many people have degrees now, but it's still like
a minimum requirement for a lot of jobs. I'm in the job market now again, and I'm still surprised by how many positions still are like, you know, degree
you need a
in
degree,
biology.
any degree will do.
Yeah. I was senior accountant, and my boss was like, we can't promote you any higher. I'm sorry. You need a degree of some kind. Like that. Well, that sucks. You had a story about the library job, right?
Kind of the same thing where
they told you you're literally doing the job that we want to hire you for, but until you get the degree, we can't pay you more for what you're doing.
I'm considering, you know, maybe getting my master's because that's how that's the only way you can get a job as a librarian. And my boss was like, that'll be super easy for you because you already know all of it. You just have to pay $15,000 and spend, you know, 2 years and do all this busy work and memorize all this bullshit. But but you already know all of it, so it'll be a breeze. And I was just like, okay, could I just pay them and then get the paper? Nope. Turns out.
You're like, if you literally know this, why are you making me jump through this stupid bullshit hoop?
Probably because of some kind of lost purposes.
Yes. So yeah, let's get back to this.
Lost purposes.
The next thing I pulled out was politicians want to look like they're doing something about educational difficulties. The politicians have to look busy to voters this year, not 15 years later when the kids are looking for jobs. The politicians are not the consumers of education. The actual consumers of knowledge are the children who can't pay, can't vote, can't sit on the committees.
Emancipate children.
Yeah. Teachers might complain, but they aren't the decision makers, and ultimately, it's not their future on the line, which puts sharp bounds on how much effort they're willing to spend on unpaid altruism, which, I've met a lot of very altruistic teachers, but there's definitely a certain line. I've seen my mom do things for my little brother who has schizophrenia that I know no human would do for someone that wasn't their direct child, most likely. At least 99.99% of humans wouldn't, because it's a lot of work.
I've had like a rare but like really memorable few examples of teachers who clearly loved the subject and actually wanted to teach it.
Mhm.
Which it's weird to like pull that out as an example of going above and beyond, but like I remember a lot of early Irish history, even though it has nothing to do with anything in my life, because I just had this great teacher who would like excitedly overturn a bunch of desks and act out different battles and like, draw crazy diagrams on the board, and it was impossible like not to be interested. It was infectious.
Yeah.
And it was just such a stark contrast between teachers like that, where again, even if you're like, this is a requirement for my literature minor,
Dude, good teachers are
but like
fucking amazing.
I was like, I love this class. Like, I was looking forward to going to that class.
Mhm.
And
long-
then like subjects, I had some teachers just ruin subjects I really liked.
As long,
Steven?
as long as we're on the subject, it does sort of blow my mind why somebody would get credentialed to get into a low status, low paying job that they don't want to do.
I think
Like a lot of teachers hate teaching.
Yeah.
they?
I mean, a lot of my
That's
teachers
awful.
hated teaching.
Oh, that sucks.
I mean, I feel like
I
they did
think
because they
loved
seem to
it
hate
originally
kids.
and they burned out. Like
Maybe.
I get the impression that a lot of them are like that.
Also, I think teaching is extremely high status.
I think that
teachers
that
are
ought to be
idolized.
higher status, but I guess I'm not belittling teachers. I have families. I have a family member that's a teacher. I liked a lot of mine, but I guess I don't know where it would stand on like the rank of like what do you do for a living. But
Like,
I guess I
would put them-
assumed that if it was higher status, it would pay more.
It's
But
a
No.
middle class.
Oftentimes, status is used in place of payment. You can pay people less if a job is high status.
that's a good point.
Like, I wouldn't put teachers as high as firefighters, but I usually hear them referred to in tones that are close to as high as you
Yeah, our
refer to
country's
firefighters.
heroes.
Yeah.
I think people pay a lot of lip service to teachers, but telling
Yeah.
someone your job as a teacher is not going to earn you a lot of respect. I know because my mom was a teacher.
Okay.
And it was, always considered a respectable job. It's like, that's a good thing to be, but it wasn't like, oh, well, thank you for your service.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the impression I get. Like my mom and my middle sister, both teachers.
I know that people tend to talk about them in a much more reverent way than they talk about like a plumber or a carpenter or something.
I think they do
Yeah.
in the abstract. I don't really see it translate into actual status for the people doing those jobs.
Yeah, that's why I was saying upper middle class, because like I think that's as high as you can get. My mom and my dad were both kind of like lower middle class, or maybe just lower class, carpenter and teacher, and then my sister was able to get like a teaching degree, and like become a real teacher in a school system that abused her really terribly. But she kind of I don't know.
But tying this back to the previous point, what Eliezer is saying is, in his exact words, bureaucrats are untrustworthy genies, for they do not share the values of the wisher.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I mean, so we're focusing on the education example from this post, but he also gives the fun anecdotes of like communist factories or factories in communist Russia producing like boots and stuff. And it's like, look, we made lots of boots.
Tiny boots.
Yeah, and it's like, look, because like the bean counters want to count lots of beans, so like they're gonna just squint and see that this strap of leather looks, like a bean, and then it's like, yeah, this is all great because our output looks awesome, and we're not gonna get shot or something by the government, but doesn't do anything for all of our barefoot soldiers out there freezing their toes off.
And it's fun to laugh at.
May I offer for your consideration the FDA?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say that because like I said, I worked in clinical research, and there's just entire jobs that exist, like entry level jobs, like I was doing, to babysit clinical research associates, CRAs, or monitors, who are representatives from the sponsors to say it's, I don't know, Moderna, and they come twice a week, and you have to just drag all of your paper binders like on a cart because there's like hundreds of them sometimes, and they're massive. I have photos. They're really well paid. So maybe it's worth doing it for a few years, but it just seems like you just get flown all over the world to go sit in like a dimly lit room and go page after page through paper binders. My whole job would be giving them the access to the EDC, dragging all the binders out, trying to catch all of the doctors and nurses who did different things to like verify that, yes, in fact, this patient's heart rate was this on this date. Like to my memory 5 years ago.
I used to get paid hundreds of dollars an hour by insurance companies to go sit through construction law depositions and not do anything.
Sounds super fun.
Yeah, it was pretty boring, but
what was your job there? Just to
show up,
have a lawyer in the room? Like, why would they pay you that money?
So the way construction law works is if a building collapses, there's any defect in the construction, they sue everyone who worked on the building. So there's like, and then the ghost contractors sue all their subcontractors to be like, no, this was really your fault. So you have like 15 parties.
It was Jeff the plumber.
Yeah, right. So you have like 15 parties in every litigation. So when there's a deposition, every party has a right to sit in on the deposition and ask questions if they want to. And so the insurance companies who are funding all this litigation, most of them will just pay for you to go sit there in the deposition, even if you don't have any questions, to like observe.
It's the metaphorical tiny boots of America.
Are you looking for, I don't know, shady deals being made or something? Is that what you're there for?
No. I'm there to observe the deposition so we know what happened. And like,
he's legal presence.
You're there to look professional.
If, somebody doesn't ask, an obvious question that they should ask, then I can step in and ask that. But in reality, that just would never happen.
So you do actually have to pay attention. You can't just like sit on your phone scrolling Discord or something.
I mean, I paid attention so I could, because I would like write up a little report at the end to show that we did something. But it was nothing that couldn't have been done just from the transcript.
Okay.
And I was not a construction lawyer. Like I was just I didn't know anything really about construction law. Yeah. So there was no way I was going to think up better questions than the people who were like the lead in these depositions.
We should probably get through this because it's been a while now. He quotes, gosh, I don't remember who it was.
Oh, Musashi, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Saying the primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy, whatever the means. Why would an individual lose track of their purposes in a sword fight? He thinks maybe if someone else had taught them to fight, if they had not generated the entire art from within themselves, they might not understand the reason for parrying at one moment or springing at another. They might not realize when the rules had exceptions, fail to see the times when the usual method won't cut through. And then he draws that forward to compare it to rationality, saying the essential thing in the art of epistemic rationality is to understand how every rule is cutting through to the truth in the same movement, which I thought was really great because sometimes we do lose track of why we're doing this thing and just like, oh, well, you are falling prey to this bias or you aren't doing this way of thinking correctly. But sometimes if you know that the whole point is to get through to the truth, you do see places where the rules have exceptions or where the usual method isn't working.
Kind of bringing it around full circle when we started talking about frame controllers. If you're doing rationality right, you should be looking for weaknesses in your own technique like that. Like, am I doing this for these reasons that I think I am? Like, these noble, cool reasons? Or am I avoiding my own flaws or getting defensive over things that maybe I should actually criticism I should be listening to, etc. And then what's my overarching ultimate goal here? And then how does that relate to my values? Mm-hmm. It's like a little segue.
Oh. Okay. All righty. Okay, real quick before we go, Eliezer does say that it seems this lost purposes thing seems to bother him a lot more than a lot of other people and wonders why that is. And specifically, he wonders, why were his fellow kids in the religious school just willing to say prayers whose words they didn't understand?
Oh, that was, how the article started. We were just, cutting out a few different sentences, but I actually really liked the beginning of this where Eliezer said, I went to Hebrew school and I was told, here's this prayer, and it's in Hebrew, and you have to memorize it. And he said, will it work if I don't know what the words mean? And they were like, oh yeah, as long as you say it in Hebrew, it will totally work. And he's like, and that's when I lost my faith. I forget if those were the exact words, but I became much more skeptical on this day.
And I assume it's because Eliezer took his religion seriously as a kid, and
Yeah.
he believed it as model of the world, and that.
And man after my own heart, because I was the Catholic that leapt repeatedly off a desk praying to God to make me fly after I was told that God will grant your wishes as long as you are, following the 10 Commandments and don't commit sins.
Like
you forgot to ask what kind of genie God is.
A dick one. I love that. Like, my takeaway from that wasn't the God of the Old Testament or the New Testament doesn't exist, but it was like, God exists and he's an asshole, and I'm not gonna care about him anymore. But I would still talk to God in my head for a long time, because this was, I don't know, I was like 3 or 4 or something, and like I spent a while just being like, yeah, fuck you, God. You think that I should do this thing, and
like our teachers claim that these
you're
are
not even helping me with
our teachers claim that these are real models of the world, and we believe them because I guess we're neuroatypical. But as far as I can tell, like more neurotypical people just like know instinctively this is all a social thing. It's a signaling game, and the nonsense ritual, like the whole point of it is to be a nonsense ritual to signal your social affiliations. And so like when they say it, it's doing the work that it's supposed to do, which is social signaling. So it doesn't like clash for them. They never really felt like it was supposed to model the world, right?
I don't know.
Like
I'm not neurotypical.
Me neither. It just seems like with more neurotypical people, it feels like the entire view of the world is just as a social thing. And so
I don't know what these normies think.
I don't, man.
I don't think that's what they don't think that. They just don't think about it.
That's the answer.
When they do the thing, people are like, "Yeah, yes, good," and then when they don't do the thing, people are like, "No, bad." So they do the thing.
Well, that's literally just saying viewing the whole world as a social thing.
But they're not.
People said yes, bad, or no good.
Like you and I can, because it sounds like I'm putting like rationalists on a pedestal, or introspective people, or assuming like most people aren't introspective. People compartmentalize their introspection, right? And if they're going to go to church and make the noises and eat the bread or whatever. And
compartmentalization is really adaptive.
Yeah.
I think this also ties into our main topic that we're probably going to get to at some point, which is like, that's just not how people work. Like they don't have these complicated models of like what this is for and why they do it. They're just conditioned to do it. So they do it without thinking.
That's implicitly treating the world like it's just social games.
Right, but like there's a way to explicitly treat the world like it's social games and like be aware that that's what you're doing. And in your initial phrasing, you made it sound like that's what they were doing. That they knew they were playing a game rather than they were just walking around, right?
Well, I mean, if you want to fit in with them, you do have to know that you're playing the game and play it.
If you're aware that it's a game.
Yeah.
But most people aren't aware that it's a game.
I mean,
right?
Yeah. Like
I just find it very frustrating that that's their innate view of reality.
Shrug.
Oh my god.
It is frustrating. I don't know.
I really don't think it's that different, you guys. I'm sure we all have things that we just don't think about.
That's sure.
Nope, not me. I'm perfect.
I think
introspective.
About my shit until I'm paralyzed with indecision. Just existential despair all the time.
I guess that's the failure mode.
It's not very adaptive.
Things. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta just do the things.
So anyways, he ends by asking, is it possible for people to actually keep their eye on the ball, to have the correct intentions without letting them go astray? And he says, can there be such a thing as a sane corporation, a sane civilization even? Which I think is a setup for a famous line from later.
But those are still cool questions.
Yes.
I wonder, do you think there are any sane corporations?
Yes.
Very small ones.
I just heard of one that is like a Ticketmaster program, but all of the profits go to effective charities.
How does that make it a sane corporation, though?
Because it's a smart way to spend money. And it's a great business model that doesn't actually require like
How does it
employees and like real infrastructure.
Oh, it's like automated?
I mean, yeah, it's got to have whatever the base amount, but like you pay $7 for the privilege of using Ticketmaster. You probably pay $7 for the privilege of using, I should remember the thing.
Should link to it after.
I'll find it here in a sec, but you pay the fee, and instead of the fee just going straight to people's pockets, it goes to whatever server costs and stuff, but then the rest goes to charity. That sounds like a sane use of money.
I mean, that's not the question, though. By sane, he means has not lost their purposes, has their intentions clearly in sight at all times.
This sounds like a good example, because it sounds like they are trying to help people get tickets to things and also give to charities. I'm
it's
assuming
possible.
That's probably their goals and their values.
Yeah, if their intention is funnel money into effective charities no matter what, then replacing Ticketmaster as the skim off the top person, finding easy rent-seeking opportunities
Low-hanging
like
fruit,
that,
yeah.
and diverting them to charities would be effective.
it's
I mean,
rational.
I think corporations are much better at keeping their eye on the ball than most other organizations or even most individuals.
Not the medical industry.
I agree for the
Well-
most part because they have some competitive pressures, but there's a lot of things that will insulate you from competitive pressures too, and that's when corporations start to lose sanity again.
Sure,
That's why I was saying
but-
small ones. Small corporations have to be leaner, tighter, and care much more about profit than something rolling by on inertia and favorable regulations that they've managed to get.
No, I'm pretty sure GiveWell is a corporation.
Yeah, I was thinking about effective charity. I'm also thinking about like Ben and Jerry's though. They're pretty cool, right?
I don't know.
I mean, they're hippies, so they donate a lot of money to hippie stuff.
Yeah, I think they just wanted to make cool ice creams.
If our goal, yeah, and they
Ice
succeeded.
cream. And
There
make
is
money.
no way that was their only goal. You
Yeah.
cannot have a goal of make cool ice cream and become as big as Ben and Jerry's.
All right, if we're planning on ever getting through to the main subject, we can save our corporations in principle sane, or is it possible to have a sane corporation?
And I was going to ask about
save that.
civilizations next, but maybe that could be another time.
I think that these are too big of questions to
These
wrap
are
up
very
on.
large questions.
All right, maybe
The
you guys can
answer
talk
is
about
no.
the next episode.
Maybe.
Maybe.
All right, for next time, our LessWrong posts will be purpose and pragmatism and the affect heuristic.